Fox starts the record. There we go. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Corporation of the Township of Plymouth on November 4th, 2020. And I will start with roll call. Councillor Bailey.
Present.
Councillor Balmer. Councillor Balmer, you're muted still. I'll let him work away on that. Councillor Goida.
Present.
Councillor Spoulos.
Present.
And Councillor Balmer, back to you. We can see you, we just can't hear you. You there? You're gonna work away at Mr. Schwender. Do we need his audible?
He just
Working now.
There you go. Okay. All right, and we will start our moment of reflection. Okay, that concludes our moment of reflection. Ms. White-Fox, if you could read out the confirmation of the agenda resolution, please.
The council approves the November 4th, 2020 agenda as circulated, and the council approves the additions to the agenda as follows. Report ADM 2020-042 revised update human resources policies. Report PW 2020-010 Niska Road winter maintenance agreement. Report REC 2020-006 Optimus Recreation Center rink operations, and bylaw 2020-052 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a road boundary agreement, Niska Road, for the purpose of winter maintenance.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a mover for that, please?
Move it.
Councillor Spoulos, second by Councillor Bailey. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Councillor Bailey,
Yeah, in favor.
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
and Councillor Spoulos.
In favor.
Okay, that's carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interests?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Councillor Goida.
I am declaring a pecuniary interest in item number 6.7, which is the Northumberland Council resolution for the aggregate property valuation. And although I do not have a pecuniary interest in receiving the information, I do have an interest in relation to any decisions or discussions regarding the position of the township as a family member operates an aggregate in the township.
Okay, thank you. Any further? No. All right. Can I get Ms. Hoyle-Fox to read out the consent agenda resolution?
That the consent agenda items listed for the November 4th, 2020 council meeting be received for information.
Okay, I'll get a mover for that. Councillor Goida, seconder Councillor Bailey. Anybody want any of those items removed before? No, seeing none. Okay, all in favor? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, in favor.
Okay, Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
Favor.
All right, that's carried. All right, delegations, we have none. Public meetings, none. So our first report would be Finance Department, 921. We have Ms. Hassan here with us. I don't know if she wants to give us a quick summary of the third quarter financial report and anything notable.
So it's just a regular report that we do on a quarterly basis, and nothing significant to know. If council has any specific questions, I can answer them.
Okay, Councillor Bailey, any questions for that?
I did just have a question. I'm gonna turn my video off. Just curious if there have been any savings due to COVID in July, August, or September. We see lost revenue, but I didn't know if we tracked any sort of savings happening.
Yeah, so as you can tell, just based on reviewing the report, we're in the third quarter, and so We're seeing some savings in expenditures in the various departments, just based on some of our facilities being closed and not having part-time staff at some of the facilities right now. So we are seeing some savings corporately in just based on the third quarter financial report provided.
Okay, and then what will happen, or what happens to any money that's not spent that's been budgeted for?
So similar to previous years, as per council's direction, in the last couple of years, any surplus funds have been contributed to the asset management discretionary reserve. But similar to previous years, I will be reporting on the surplus after the audit is completed, whether it's a surplus or a deficit. At this time, it's not known. However, we did receive funding from the province as it relates to COVID-19. And so I'm hoping it's going to be a small surplus. And just based on that, we can report to council similar to how we do in previous years, and council can direct how that money should be allocated. However, the practice in the past has been to allocate it to the asset management discretionary reserve.
Okay, even wages?
The full operating and
Yeah.
capital surplus in the past has been allocated to that reserve.
Okay, I just had one question regarding the tree maintenance program. It just looks like there's still over 10,000 to be spent. Is that happening in the next 3 months? Is somewhere in particular? Do we know?
I think Mr. Fowler can speak to the tree maintenance program.
Yeah.
My last records indicate that we just received an invoice probably about a month ago from our last contractor for a total of $9,200 for a week's worth of service. So with that being accounted for, we should have around $2,500 left in our operating budget for tree maintenance.
Great.
It'll probably get us another day or two with a bucket truck.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, the mayor has just let me know that his internet has dropped, so he's off the call. I believe he's trying to get reconnected at the moment.
Yes, I just received a similar message. Is there any other questions maybe anyone else has on the financial report? If not, we can maybe just sit tight for a moment while he reconnects.
Ms. Hassan replied to Councillor Bailey's question about savings. I don't know if we need to repeat it. I believe there were some savings through the COVID.
Yes, some minor savings in terms of some of the facilities being closed. So
Okay.
those have been noted, but we'll see what happens after the fourth quarter, and based on the auditors and their work that they do to audit our financials, and then we can report back to council similar to previous years if there is a surplus or our financial status after the audit is complete.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hassan. Any further questions, Councillor Bailey? Nope. Okay, Councillor Balmer.
No questions, thank
Okay, Councillor Goida.
No questions.
Councillor Spoulos.
No questions.
Awesome. Ms. Whitefox, if you read the resolution, receive that report, please.
That report FIN 2020-038 regarding the third quarter financial report 2020 be received.
I get a mover for that, please. Councillor Balmer,
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Spoulos. And all in favor, Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor.
All right, next up, we have administration. We have ADM 2020 -042, update for human resources policies. Can I get a mover for that, please? Actually, you know what? Technically, we're supposed to get a mover in a second before we can just discuss it, but Mr. Schwendinger, did you want to give a little synopsis of this report that we're receiving today?
Sure. As outlined in the report, we're just going through doing a little bit of updating and clarifying in some of the existing policies, streamlining the process a little bit. There were some clarifications and additions that were made with the version that was circulated and posted today, and those are noted in red. And if there's any specific questions, I would be happy to answer them. These are presented in draft, and if council endorses them today, then we'll put them in the final format and incorporate them into the township's official policies. These are just drafts for your consideration.
Excellent. Councillor Bailey? You had it. Saw it go off. Any questions? No. Yes. No. Okay. Councillor Balmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Schwindinger. What I really like about the changes here is the division of into 3 sections. I agree with what it says in the report, that this makes it clearer and easier for staff to understand and apply. So I think that's a positive change. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Goyda?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Councillor Spoulos?
Just one comment on page 187. I believe there's a sentence that should be taken out. You put something in red above it that says, and council will be informed. That's fine. Then you go on to say council will review and consider all the information provided. I don't think we need that sentence in there.
That's correct. We will remove that sentence.
Otherwise, that's it. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, can I get a mover to receive that, please? Or Ms. Hoyfox, did you read the resolution, please?
That revised report ADM 2020-042 regarding updates to selected human resources policies be received, and that the Township of Puslinch Council approve the recruitment and selection, performance appraisal, nepotism, and probation policies as presented.
Can I get a mover for that, please?
Just a moment.
Oh,
Sorry.
as amended?
Yes, as amended, not as presented, if I could. Friendly amendment.
Okay, I've made that change. Thank you.
Yeah, have that one sentence removed. Better. Okay, mover for that. It was Councillor Spoulos, seconded by Councillor Bailey. I see you raise your hand. All in favor? Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
Councillor Balmer?
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos?
In favor?
And Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
Okay, that's carried. Next is
Thank you.
ADM. You're welcome. Next is report ADM 2020-043. Glenn, did you want to speak to that at all? Or
I believe Kyle's available.
oh, is he coming in?
I believe so.
Yes, he should be here in just a sec. Here we go.
Hey, there he is. Sorry, Kyle. I was trying to give Glenn your glory.
Oh, that's okay.
So the floor is yours when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, the report in front of you today is for your consideration regarding updates to the Wellington County chapter of the Grand River Source Protection Plan. This update, as it pertains to Puslinch, is primarily in regards to some mapping updates related to the Cambridge wellhead protection areas that come into Puslinch, the west side of Puslinch. These changes are related to the recently completed Cambridge East EA and have resulted, as you can see in Figure 1 in the report, in some changes to the Whoopa shape, as well as some additional properties being added. There's approximately 8 properties being added that may require salt management, risk management plans. There are also a few other definitions, formatting, readability, typographic amendments that also pertain to the Township of Puslinch. You'll also see in the amendment that the main part of this amendment is actually the addition of a wellhead protection area for quantity for Center Wellington and Erin and Mapleton and the associated policies. As noted in the report, the water quantity policies do not apply to the Township of Puslinch at this time, and this report is not in regards to that for Puslinch. As council is aware, there is an ongoing project related to the Guelph Hermosa Whoopa Q, and we would come back to council with a separate report and a separate resolution for consideration tentatively at this time in 21 in regards to the changes. But I did want to highlight it for council because some of the policies that are being recommended right now for the quantity would form the basis of what council would see in another year as it relates to Puslich. I would be happy to take any questions.
Hey, thank you, Kyle. Counselor Bailey?
Second. Thanks, Kyle, for your report. Not a lot of questions. I guess just more of an overarching question regarding the. There were revisions to the quality policies in the plan. Are there any big policy changes to note?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for the question through you, Mr. Mayor. No, the quality policy changes were mostly to align with some of the quantity policies that were coming in effect. So the main change there was with the stormwater management facility policy, which would be, I believe it's section 2 in the plan. And there were some changes there just to make that policy better align with some of the water quantity, the groundwater recharge side of things that was being added in the quantity policies.
Okay, and then just one other question. It's mentioned regarding the approved wellhead protection areas in Cambridge that some properties would be removed from the mapping. How are properties removed when these changes happen?
Yeah, certainly. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the mapping changes and what happens then is that the policies no longer apply to those properties. The GRCA has in the past sometimes sent a removal letter to the properties that this most recently in Guelph Hermosa, we had this about a year or 2 years ago where they tell the property owners that the policies no longer apply to them. That's a GRCA procedure, so I can't tell you for sure that that's going to happen in this case, but it has happened for other situations like this. So I would anticipate there would be a letter sent by the GRCA to the properties that are being removed, and it's not very visible in the figure 1, but if you look in the pre-consultation notice, the properties that are being removed are where the kind of the lobes of the wellhead protection areas have shifted a little bit in the middle of the Cambridge wellheads. And there's not that many. There's a few that would be removed.
So if some of those properties had risk management plans on them, then now they just don't have them anymore?
Yes, through the mayor. Yes, that's correct. But none of the properties at this point have risk management plans.
Okay.
The risk management plan policy for salt, it has not actually been approved by the province yet. So that was that came to council earlier this year or late last year maybe. But we're waiting on provincial approval for that policy. So we haven't negotiated those salt RMPs yet, but we're hoping to have that approval in the next month or 2.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Counselor Bulmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Kyle. I don't have any questions, but I think it's important to acknowledge how long, well, maybe the source water protection piece of this has been a more later piece, but the whole EA for this Cambridge East has been going on for a long time. And I think to the credit of both the Region of Waterloo and the GRCA, there's been several events where there's been feedback from the residents and the potentially affected residents, even the not affected residents were there. And I think that's a good sign that so many people were participated in this process to get here. I know there's a few properties that probably still have some concerns, but to date, we've seen both the region and the Conservation Authority take their concerns seriously. So I appreciate that how far we've come since the first meeting with the EA at the Clifford Everett Center, I don't know, 2008 or so. So it's been a long haul. So thank you.
Yes, it has been.
Counselor Goyda?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much, Kyle, for your report. I have no questions.
Counselor Spillis?
Just one question. The public consultations to start the end of January go on till March. Given this COVID situation we're in. What is going to be the nature of the public consultation?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Through the mayor, we're in those discussions right now with GRCA staff. At this point, it is looking like it will be virtual events. Whether that is a live webinar similar to this where people can call into, or whether that's the publishing of information and soliciting questions and then kind of answering those questions through sort of pre-posted videos, or whether that's just posting more static information such as slide decks and reports. We're still working out those details. We've started that conversation probably just in the last 2 weeks with the GRCA staff, and we're just talking a little bit about ideas. And actually, I'll be talking to Ms. Hoyt Fox later this week, early next week, about kind of the experience in the township with the public meetings that you've been doing for planning, just to try to figure out what's going to work and what's what works the best. So, kind of, we're open to ideas too. We're trying to figure this out too. It's not the way we usually do the public consultation, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kyle, for your report. I just have maybe more of a query. You know, there's some pump testing going up on Laird Road, and if another well gets placed in there, that's going to essentially mean the whole northwest side of Puslich will be encompassed in wellhead protection area and double up on this. That's correct. I see.
Yes, that's correct. That you're talking about the city of Guelph South pumping. Yeah, that's in the city of Guelph itself, but the WUPAs would definitely extend into the township. Yes, that would increase, and there would be some overlap too, as you pointed out, with some of the Cambridge wellhead protection areas reach all the way to the Hanlon. So yeah, it'll be. We have yet to see kind of what that mapping would look like, but yes, conceptually, it'll cover it out over.
Have you any inclination of any municipalities to the east or to the south of us that they're going to be expanding their wells so that essentially covering all of Puslich and wellhead protection areas, or?
Thank you for the question. It's a timely question. I can't speak for the east, but south, yes. I've been in discussions with Halton, Hamilton, Source Protection Authority, and we are aware of City of Hamilton is doing some technical work around the Freelton well supply currently. We have not seen that report yet. When we do see that report, it'll go to Mr. Denho for review. They're still in the process of that technical work. Whether or not that, so at this point, whether or not that means an extension of the WUPA, a contraction of the WUPA, or the WUPA stays the same, I don't know at this point. But yes, there is additional work going on for sure. Haven't heard anything from Halton though that would indicate coming into Puslich. Okay. There is work in Halton that will probably impact urine.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time. And I'll have Ms. Hoyt Fox read the resolution, please.
That report ADM 2020-043 regarding updates to the Wellington County chapter of the Grand River Source Protection Plan be received for information, and that council hereby provides a municipal resolution in support of the proposed revisions to the Grand River Source Protection Plan and associated assessment reports that are applicable to the township of Puslich. The revisions applicable include updates related to the region of Waterloo, specifically Cambridge, municipal water systems, and edits to certain water quality policies, definitions, formatting, readability, and typographical amendments to the Wellington County chapter of Grand River Source Protection Plan.
Awesome. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Spoulos, seconder. I saw Councillor Bailey raise her hand. All in favor? Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
Councillor Ballmer?
In favor.
Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos?
In favor?
I'm in favor. Perfect. That's passed. Thanks, Kyle. Nice to see you. And planning and building, we have none. I believe Ms. Hoyt Fox, you will bring in Ms. Helgar. Helgar or Melgar? Sorry, I might have mispronounced that. Melgar. Hello, Harenia. She's there. Yeah, there she is.
Hello, can you hear
How are
me?
you doing? We can hear you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for having me this afternoon, council members. So this report outlines the municipal requirements set out in the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and Ontario Regulation 380-04, and how the municipality has fulfilled these requirements for 2020. So I'm just going to go over some of the highlights quickly. So the township is required to have an emergency management program committee, and this committee met virtually on July 16th. To review the township's emergency management program, including its hazard identification and risk assessment, emergency response plan, training needs, proposed annual exercise, and public education. Those meeting minutes were attached to this report. The emergency response plan requirements, so a report and bylaw to adopt a new emergency response plan was presented to council by Linda on September 16th. And that has been adopted. So a copy of the new township's emergency response plan will be submitted to the Office of the Fire Marshal and Emergency Management as part of compliance. In terms of training, all the members of the township's municipal emergency control group, primary and alternates, have satisfied the training requirements for this year. As you know, because of the pandemic, we didn't really have very much training this year, but we did have some virtual training for the EOC software and some online training for the virtual scribe course. In terms of the annual emergency management exercise requirement, due to the fact that most municipalities are living this response and have been living it since mid-March, the province decided to allow an exemption from this requirement for the regulation. So we didn't run an exercise this year, and that memo is attached as well. In terms of public education, so again, because of COVID, most of our face-to-face public education programs were canceled. So we did it through other platforms, so including the Wellington Advertiser, local radio stations, our website, social media, that kind of thing. And also through Emergency Preparedness Week, we were able to send out some coloring pages and that kind of thing, get some interaction with the public. We also were able to revise the 2020 Be Better Prepared guides, and those were sent out to the public through the Wellington Advertiser during the month of June. So in conclusion, the Township of Puslinch has fulfilled the mandatory municipal requirements set out in the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and Regulation 380-04. That's my report, and I can answer any questions. Thank you.
I muted myself. Sorry. Great work. Excellent. Councillor Bailey.
No, thank you. I don't have any questions.
Councillor Balmer.
No questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Councillor Goida.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Councillor Spillis, you have to have one. One for.
I'll just say welcome to Puslinch.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your report. Thank you, Councillor Spillis. It was an easy one for you. Excellent. Great work. May I have Ms. White Fox read the resolution, please?
That report EM 2020-002 regarding the status of the township's emergency management program for 2020 be received. And further, that the Council of the Township of Puslinch accepts the annual status report for the township's emergency management program for 2020.
Perfect. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Goida. Awesome. Seconder, Councillor Bailey. I'm not choosing you, Councillor Spillis. You've done enough work. All in favor, Councillor Bailey? Need to hear it. You're muted. There you go.
In favor.
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis.
In favor?
I'm in favor. That's carried. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Oh, I'm working off my paper copy. Doesn't match my computer. So we have 961, the report for Niska. Mr. Schwendinger or Mr. Fowler, do we need a quick synopsis? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's a boundary road. Maybe you can give us some cool.
I'll just give a brief intro and then Mr. Fowler can explain the details. We apologize for the short notice, but we just received this and we need to have it in place for mid-November. So that's why we had to add it to this agenda. We apologize for that. Mr. Fowler, could you maybe give the synopsis of it, please?
Yeah, okay. So the Niska Road Agreement entails basically a commitment between Township of Puslinch, City of Guelph, and the township of Guelph Hermosa. In the past, Niska Road basically had a one-lane Bailey Bridge that we plow units for crossing the road. So the solution to that was Guelph Hermosa would look after our stretch of Niska Road. They were currently coming down Whitelaw. So with a small fee that was paid every year, they would maintain the stretch of Niska for us. We would look after all the other maintenance of it, but as far as plowing and treating, they used to look after that. Upon completion of the new Niska Bridge, which is now a 2-lane structure, which allows plow units to travel over it, the city of Guelph, because they're already plowing Niska, have basically offered the fact that they will continue to travel over the Niska Bridge and plow our section of Niska because they require a turnaround, which at Whitelaw intersection. So basically this agreement just acknowledges that the city of Guelph will look after the entire stretch of Niska for plowing and treating, and any other roadside maintenance will still be the responsibility of Puslins Township. And Guelph Hermosa will continue just to turn around on Whitelaw and head west again. Any other questions? I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Any questions, Councillor Bailey?
I just have 2 questions. It sounds like the service level would be fine, but I'm just wondering how the Guelph service level compares to ours in terms of timing after a snowfall, that kind of service.
With the city of Guelph, they provide a 24/7 coverage. So actually our section of Niska will probably be better patrolled and plowed and treated than the service that the township can currently offer.
Sounds good. One other thing I noted, it indicated the ability to terminate the agreement with a 30-day notice or something like that. If that were to happen, what would any financial implications be?
Without necessarily tracking the material output and the number of times it would have to be plowed and treated, I would not expect it to be a huge amount of money. Currently, the city of Guelph is going to plow and treat at no cost to the township, so it's definitely a good gesture toward the township. And if we were ever required to plow it ourselves, we would have access to do it with our own vehicles coming down Pioneer Trail to Niska. So I would say at least under $5,000 would be our cost for an entire winter season if we had to take it on. But I foresee that happening anytime soon.
Good, thank you.
All right, Councillor Balmer?
Well, thank you. This makes sense. Good work on Mr. Fowler's part for getting this in place. You know, the concern was when this went to a 2-lane bridge, we would see the lifespan of our section of Niska Road be shortened because of increased traffic, but it's a good gesture and makes sense on the city's part to turn their plows around, and you know, it's how we work together with the neighbors. I think it's a good sign. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Goyda?
Thank you. I have no questions.
Councillor Spillis?
Oh, just a comment, it's a good deal. Thanks for staff for arranging this deal.
I echo those. It's nice that the University of Guelph is doing this for us as a friendly service to a neighboring municipality. That's great. We appreciate it. Okay, can we get the resolution read, please, Ms. White Fox?
That report PW-2020-010 regarding Niska Road Winter Maintenance Agreement be received, and that council give 3 readings to bylaw number 2020-052, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with the Corporation of the City of Guelph and the Corporation of the Township of Guelph Hermosa.
Okay, can you move it for that, please?
I'll move.
Thanks, Councillor Balmer. Seconder, Councillor Spillis. All in favor, Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
Councillor Balmer?
In favor.
Councillor, where are you? Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Spillis?
In favor?
And that's carried. Excellent. Now, I feel we should deal with 972 first before we deal with 971. If we're not going to open the facility, maybe we won't need curtains. So let's have the discussion about 972 first. Mr. Schwindinger, do you want to give us a little background
Sure.
on this?
Sure, I can give you a brief summary on it. So basically what we wanted to do is bring this issue before council to see what your thoughts were. We took a look at and discussed the matter with neighboring municipalities and looked at what others are doing with regards to rinks. And I'm sure you've seen some things in the media. Basically what they're doing is the decisions have been that ice time is being offered to local minor hockey groups and youth sports organizations, providing that they're part of a provincial or a national sports organization. And the reasoning behind that is that all those organizations through the provincial requirements and federal requirements have put protocols and policies in place for health and safety for the participants and people attending the events, so that it all falls under their operating guidelines and they're responsible for that. So the approach has been from municipalities is that is the rentals that are provided, and they're not doing the free skates and family skates and private rentals and private games and practices and those types of things. So you may have seen some of the larger neighboring municipalities, they've even adjusted some of their timing on some of their facilities, and some of them they're not opening, they're just making the ice time available for the needs for those local minor associations. So basically what that includes is outlined in the reports, and the way they're doing it is that there's no washrooms or change rooms available. Rentals to non-local teams or non-local organizations or individuals are not permitted. No private rentals, no free skates, and no shinny. So we've also as outlined already, some municipalities are reducing hours, some are not opening at all, and some that had put things into motion to open up and have the ice ready are actually looking at closing down early because the requested rentals that request for rentals that they've received have actually gone down and not come in as they anticipate, so they might have to close down early. So just some of the reasoning behind that, so you understand why they're doing what they're doing. To put some context in that is when you get into the situation of what the provincial regulations are, is if it's over the 25, then it has to be to an organized league. And if it's under the 25, then the responsibility for enforcement falls upon the facility or the organizer. And the reality is that municipalities don't have the resources to do that, and that puts the risk and liability on the municipalities. They're trying to limit, obviously, the risk of transmission and exposure. So there's also a concern with proximity to high positive case areas, as we are. I know some of you have seen various services in the media as well, is that very long lineups are showing up at certain service areas and certain businesses and things, and some government offices as well, for services locally, far more than what the local population would typically have. And what that's showing is people coming from other areas to areas that have the service available. And then obviously there's the risk associated with that, given the high positive cases that we're seeing across the province now. There's also there have been some cases, you've probably seen that in the media as well, is where there's been some inappropriate behavior, vandalism and assaults taking place when people try to enforce and say, no, there's no more people allowed in the facility, or no, that type of, you have to have further spread apart, those types of things. So what people are doing, and I'll be addressing that a little bit later in the report, is if they are having facilities open, because municipal staff, they're not trained in security and have the proper equipment and clothing and stuff for security for that type of situation. So if the use would be decided on, then council would be strongly recommended that we need to have security on site to determine, okay, you're up to your number 23, you can go on, your number 26, or you can't go on the ice. And then obviously there's going to be some people that will be upset. So you need somebody there properly trained and equipped to deal with that. We took a look at the past rentals that we have to see how that would fit within those parameters. Excuse me. And if we look at just renting it to minor local youth sports groups, review of the past number of years looks like that would be less than 2% of what our rentals have been, which is a pretty small portion. So if we would be consistent with what the other local approach is, that would be for approximately 2% of what the usage has been in the past. We took a look at the other rentals that we have, and based on that review and the information we have, staff indicate that approximately 25% of the renters are local from within Puslach. To put some perspective on it as well, to date, we've had no requests from minor hockey inquiries for bookings. And the ones that have been in the past were from some neighboring municipalities, and it wasn't for any official games. It was just so extra ice time and practice time and things like that. So as I indicated, we don't have the security staff on staff. We would need to get security if you wanted to do something like this. And the cost that would obviously come at an additional cost in our operating costs. Preliminary estimates, depending on the number of hours that we have, but I just based it on if we would maintain a similar schedule to what was done in the past. The cost is outlined in the report. There would be somewhere in the range of $2,400 per week. In summary here, basically, looking for some direction from council as to what approach you'd like to take with regards to the facility. Is outlined that the standard approach for municipalities has been to offer it to local minor sports organizations that are provincial or a national organization. And that has been a small portion to this point. And there's some specific questions then that are outlined in the report that we could go through, but in some financial implications, the overall costs and things of ice and maintaining. Maybe I'll just kind of go through the financial considerations. The minor hockey that we've rented to in the past, that represents only about 1 to 2% of the total revenue coming in. So it's not a major contributing factor to the revenue. To get the ice into the facility, starting from the bare concrete, so the painting and the staff and hydro usage, getting the compressors running, all that is somewhere in the range of around $6,000. Monthly operating costs are in the range of about $7,200, and then the security cost would be on top of that. So I'll leave it at that, and then if we can have some discussion, and we've got the specific questions there in the report to go through that we've outlined. But I'm sure there's going to be some questions from council. So both myself and Mr. Fowler and our treasurer Mary Hassan, she can answer some questions too from the financial aspect.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. This is feedback. This is quite the report to have receiving. I read it at 140. Anyways, I'm going to try and address some of your concerns. You mentioned 2% is only minor hockey. Well, a lot of that could be the contributing factor is the fact that we require 8 weeks minimum, and with the inconsistent ice, these teams were not committing to the 8 weeks. So there's multiple components to why minor hockey. The other component is we don't have minor hockey in Puslach. So if we take a direction of policy that we only allow groups associated with minor hockey, you could be excluding the local youth from being able to use this facility, which is not the intention of this facility. In my mind, this facility shall be open this year. I'm trying to keep my composure. I'm a little upset that we're judge, jury, and executioner on people before they've even done anything. We've been renting this facility to kids with rollerblades. So and there hasn't been any issues, there hasn't been any fights, there hasn't been $2,400 a week in security required. The parents would come, they would put the roller blades, which, you know, it's wheels on the bottom instead of skate blades, and the kids would go out on the ice, the parents would stay in their cars, social distance, and everything ran smoothly. We didn't have change rooms. So I'm not buying that this is going to be this end all. We got to worry about people coming from other communities. I do feel that we need to have this facility open. I feel that maybe we can't use this money, but we got $190,000 of money from the provincial government for COVID related costs. We can use some of that money to offset if there are some operating issues. This is an outdoor facility. A lot of these quoted scenarios are from facilities that are indoor strictly. So we have a real gem here that we can put the ice in. Parents can come, the kids can skate. There needs to be a lot of discussion about, you know, do we need the AAA team, minor midget coming and tearing up the ice all the time? I don't believe that's what this facility is for. Maybe 12 and under kids is where we focus our you know, rental policy. I don't know. There's a lot of discussion go around this, but as far as I'm concerned, I think we can make it happen. Whether the change rooms are involved in that or not, I played hockey this morning before this council meeting. I went to Guelph. They opened the door at 15 minutes before our skate time. They have the X's on the walls. You go in, there's 7 people per change room. You're masked up. You go in, you get changed, you get on the ice, you skate, you come back to your change room. You have, I think, 10 minutes to leave. And it's a little gross because you can't shower, and you carry on. I think we have an opportunity here to really provide some ice time to some youth that need to still get out and get some activity. And it won't be, and you know, I don't want staff being security, but we could also have a situation where staff is in attendance. If you see a habitual renter who's not adhering to the health protocols, they don't need to make a confrontation that night. You report back to yourself, you get 3 strikes, you're out, your rental agreement's terminated, and you're gone. And then, you know, it doesn't have to be a confrontation. It can just be, you know, staff reporting back if they're seeing people not wearing masks. So that's, like I said, this is a lot to take in on a short notice, but we'll open up to council and see what they want to say. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, in front of me, I have a lot of reasons why we should keep this open. I agree that I think this is this is what families need to be doing this winter. I think we need to make it work. Again, I got it this morning, so I did a little looking. There is an excellent example of how the city of Terrace has done some sort of pre-registration. So you would go online and you would book yourself, you know, when you're going to skate and how long you're in for, and there's limitations, and you come and you go. And I know we don't have any sort of programming like that, but I'm wondering if through the Optimist Club, I know they have some sort of online registration system that we were going to use for an event. So I'm wondering if we can tap into something like that, and that way it's a controlled registration system. Something like promoting a sibling skate after school would be fabulous. The parents are already picking up and walking over to the community center. They're parked in that parking lot. So go and skate at 3:15 to 4:15 with kids in their bubble, you know, it just seems to make sense. Anyway, and I was going to comment on, we don't have any local minor hockey organizations. And the kids that are registered in those programs are already getting the ice time. We need to make this ice available for the kids that are not registered in those programs that want to just, you know, put on some skates and skate around and get outside. Anyway, I'll end there for now.
Okay. Are you using your iPhone earbuds today, Councillor?
No, because when I plug them in, I can't hear you guys.
Oh.
Something's wrong with the audio.
Mr. Schwendinger, did you capture most of what she said? I got some of it.
I got some of it, yes. Yeah, it's all good feedback, thanks. I didn't hear all of it, but I think we got most of it, yeah.
Okay. Counselor Bailey, if you don't.
I'm
if you
trying
see that-
now.
that was way better.
Yeah,
Way better.
now I can hear you.
Do you want to do
No.
that over again? No.
I
Good
need to take a
answer.
breath.
Good answer. Whew. All right. This is going to be a bit of a lengthy discussion, but that's okay. That's what we're good at. Counselor Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd have to echo the mayor's comments here. You know, I received this report just prior to sitting down for my lunch and then had to digest it and my lunch at the same time. But to help educate myself on what we're talking about here, I reached out to someone who runs a local minor hockey league and has actually rented the facility in the past, to understand what this means. How are they managing? And they're managing just fine. They're, as the mayor said, their facilities where they're operating, they're using the change rooms. There's limits on the number of kids that are in the change room. Everybody's wearing a mask. There's rules. They have the ability to, you know, they're enforcing it themselves since they operate the league. And the minor hockey league that they run is in, you know, they're running leagues in Region Waterloo. They've got one in this area. It goes from Carlisle, includes Carlisle, Guelph, and Erin. And when I raised a lot of the concerns that were identified in this report, including the staffing, well, one of the things they said was they'd be willing to rent the facility and work around whatever requirements we have for the community access. They have no issues renting it and managing it on our behalf, because they have the expertise and been doing it. And even bring, if there was enough people here to have a house league here, that's fine. Otherwise, they just bring their other programs here. They do, beyond just running house league, they do teaching and training as well. But they'd be more than willing to help us make this happen and accommodate, you know, free skates and community rentals. So I think, I don't know all the details of how that would work, but I think it's premature to say no until we have explored all these. I think staff needs to look into the other options like this. If we don't have the expertise for the staff, maybe there's someone else who would be willing to operate on our behalf through this crisis, and we'd get and would bring programs to our community we don't already have without having to give up a free skate for the school or our community. So I'd like to make sure this comes. I'd like to take the time between now and our next council meeting to get more information, because there's no information in this report as to what are the health unit requirements. There's a lot mentioned about the regulations and the health unit requirements, but no specifics as to what they are. And if others are able to make it happen, including the YMCA, by the way, which I'm going 3 times a week, I think we should be able to look at making it happen, whether it's with our own staff or taking advantage of an offer from someone else to manage it on our behalf for this season. And who knows, if that works out, it could be a long-term benefit to both and end up bringing programs to the community that we don't have. So I'm not willing to call it a day on closing the facility just yet. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Goyda.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I apologize that I do not feel prepared on this topic. It's a big decision to make, and I just don't feel like I've had the appropriate time to digest all the information. I like the direction that Councillor Balmer is speaking to, perhaps look at some more creative alternatives, like a mutual agreement with someone else that may have long-term benefits as well. And I would like to see the facility open, especially, you know, I realize that there is that we have to take some precautions to limit the spread and risk of COVID-19, but at the same time, we're entering the winter time when people are going to be even more so stuck at home without the ability to get out and, you know, be outside. And this facility provides that one little escape that like the mayor said, it's a gem. But when I look at the costs just quickly here, when I tried to sort of calculate this up, basically if that facility is open for a duration of 4 months, which I don't know if that's even realistic, to get the ice made and up and running, the staffing plus the security based on the cost here, just for that 4 months, it's going to cost us almost $74,000 to operate that facility for 4 months. And as much as I want to see it open and running, I also don't want to see us in a position where we have to raise our taxes by 8% next year to cover that loss. So I feel like I really don't know what the right answer is right now. And I perhaps would agree with Councillor Balmer. I'm not ready to say, no, we're not going to have it open. But at the same time, it's difficult to justify spending that money without knowing where are we going to end up at the end of this year. Are we looking at a surplus? Are we looking at a deficit? Is this money from the government going to cover the other loss of revenue and the other expenses we've gained, and perhaps this as well? I just feel like there's too many pieces of the puzzle missing for me to make that decision.
Yeah, and I want to point out that we have costs associated with that building, whether there's ice in there or not.
Yes.
The heat's on, we have a full-time employee standing around, right?
Yes, I agree. I guess it's more so I would
Security
assume
is
that
an
there
option.
is-
We don't have to do security. We're assuming that there's going to be mayhem at the changeover at the ice time, and I don't see it happening. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen in Guelph when they're skating now.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, our kids are in hockey, and we have that same protocol with the city of Guelph that you arrive 15 minutes ahead. They unlock the door. Only one parent is permitted. No siblings. You wear a mask. You come
Oh,
dressed.
good.
You leave within 10 minutes. But how? I guess, you know, what are our resources, our internal resources, to be able to duplicate that same process? I don't know.
Well, so my question is, like, for staff, we were renting out the pad for some sports activity through the summer. Does that change with the winter, with the seasons? I don't believe it does. And we play baseball on the baseball diamonds. They're outdoors.
Yeah,
So,
but I guess
you
maybe
know,
more so for the free skate, you know, that like for a league or whatever, I can see that. But for free skate, I guess it's a little more open-ended. There's more to consider there.
yeah, then you need so there'd be more involved because you'd have to police the amount of people on the ice to a maximum of 25. I went to a lot of free skates. I don't know how many, there'd be maybe 20 people there. Okay. Where are we? Councillor Sapoulis. Sorry, Councillor Goyda, did you have any further comments before I
No,
interjected on?
sorry.
No, it's not. Councillor Sapoulis.
I'm not prepared to sign off on the report at this time. I agree with Councillor Goyda that we require more information. My concerns are the following. There's a risk associated with this. If we don't have the proper controls in place and something does happen, I'd like to understand what the risks are to the township. I really don't know what the risks are. Are we going to be fined by the province, and what's the maximum fine? I'd like to understand that. The report cites other municipalities that decided to not proceed. I'd like to know who are these municipalities and what facilities they have. Are they similar to ours? Are they indoors? I can accept indoors, but perhaps outdoors might be a different animal. And the cost. Now the report outlines cost type of thing and 1 to 2%. I don't know what that means in real dollars. As you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, the facility costs go around all year. I'd like to know specifically what the costs are associated for the duration of skating season, and including any other necessary costs such as having proper staffing, or perhaps, as Councilor Bowman says, get a third party involved that might provide us a similar type at a less expensive cost as well. So I really don't want to make a decision at this time until we receive more information at the next council meeting.
Okay, maybe I could, I believe that was all members of council. I could respond to that. And thank you very much for all the feedback and input. That's helpful for us as staff. To this point, we haven't had a discussion with council, and I apologize if it came across that when we're trying to say to shut down the facility. That's not the, that wasn't the objective, and it came across that way. I apologize for that. It's just, here's the information that we have to this point. And this is what other municipalities are doing. That's what that would look like here. What's council's wish? Do you want to follow the similar approach? Do you want to do your own approach? Do you want to continue on with what was going on in the past? So I believe we got a good, strong message from you today that it seems like the intent is to continue on as much as possible with what we've got. And I do apologize for the timing of the report. It's just coming close to the season where, well, other than the temperature in the today, obviously, but it's coming close to when staff would be getting prepared to put the ice in. So we needed to get some direction, and we haven't had this discussion with council, so that this was very helpful. Right, I think what we can do is it essentially sounds like we would like to continue operations as much as possible with what has been going in the past. That seems like a consensus. Is that correct? I believe so.
Are we?
I really want more information before we go that way.
Well, he's trying to figure out what to investigate to come back with the next
That's
report.
fine. That's fine. If that's the case, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Well, if I could,
yeah,
I'd also like to explore the third-party option as well, since staff has expressed significant concerns about staffing and how the rules break when we have someone who operates a league running it. They take that responsibility and alleviate staff in the municipality. It also brings some expertise to it and possibly brings some programming. So I'd like to better understand, that worst case scenario, we're talking one season. Best case scenario, it works out and we do it again. But I'd want to better understand those options, because it was a brief phone call I had, and I don't know how it fits in with all the other things that staff have going on in their world. So I'd like to see that in the report as well, something about that a third party, and I can put staff in touch with the people who operate that league in this area. So.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that would be helpful. So we can definitely compile that information, and then do you think staff is, or would you like to see staff still make preparations to have the ice put in within the normal timeframe of what we're looking at, or hold off until you make further decisions?
I feel it should go in, personally. Start preparing for it.
Okay.
Wait until the next report.
Yeah, middle of November is not too, I think we can wait till the middle of November and we'll decide. That gives you still 2 weeks before December to get it in.
Sure, okay.
I guess it doesn't go in usually
And-
until this Boxing Day anyways, does it, Mr. Fowler? The ice? Doesn't matter. Middle of November is good.
Okay. Then when we're putting these plans together, just one parameter that we're asking, I don't know if it was really addressed in the comments, was did you want to have any type of limitations on who rentals would go to local or non-local, or just open for anyone who's interested? Because that will help us put together the program that we're talking about and give you more information.
Sure,
What
go
were
ahead,
the
Councilor Bear.
parameters?
So the
Right.
problem is, Mr. CEO, you and I have had these conversations that, I thought we were going to be looking at it during the operating budget, is the user fees and the scheduling for the ice rink. So we're kind of delving into that right now, because to me, the reports I've sent to you showed that there were significant revenues that were lost, in my opinion, to, just some pilot projects. And I'm not being critical of staff. This was direction from council to staff to do these. And I'm not being critical of the other council. What I'm saying is there's facts, there's reports that show we're down revenue, So when you're asking, you know, do we want to go status quo? Well, no, I don't want to go status quo because we were down 20 to 30K in revenue during our pilot, but I want ice. So, and then we had these discussions surrounding the PCC when we rent out, and Councillor Ballmer can give some history on this, where we used to have a Puslinch resident rate. And I believe that led to, you know, Puslinch residents maybe renting it for people. So how, you know, it makes it tricky to police who you rent it to. Now, I want one-off rentals. I know that, so when you get into this, just offering it to leagues right now, and I'm not happy with the situation in town with the Guelph Minor Hockey. They think that ADP rep programs are the most important, and they really don't have a focus on the house leagues. And these are kids that are just learning how to play hockey too. So to go out to these minor hockey associations, you're going to get all the rep players and these other kids that want to play house league. So that, I have a concern with that. Do I think we need 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds tearing up our facility, shooting slap shots against the boards? No. Do I think maybe we cap it at an age group, 12? But these are all operating. I don't know where this fits in. So it's going to be a lot of work for staff to come back on this report, but I think you're going to have to be creative and come up with a solution that has a plethora of options. The Aberfoyle School free skate, you know, some free skate times. There was so many last year, it was too much. They weren't being used. So they need to be offered, and I don't know the demographics of when people want to go to skate for free. Is it after dinner? Is it before dinner? But all these components, we need to find a nice little balance. That's kind of my 2 cents. I know that's a lot. So I'm not sure when you want to deal with that in operating, or if you want to in this report, Mr. CEO, but I don't can comment on all that I just said.
That information we will discuss when we go through operating and when we set rates and things like that. There's that discussion, but I think right now, just so that when we're bringing information back to council, following what some municipalities are doing with regards to rentals, do you want to limit it to locals only, or is it more open? That's one thing that we need to know, because that's going to help determine the numbers that we base this stuff on. Because
I'd like to limit it. No, sorry.
Right now, the vast majority is renters from outside the municipality, which is fine. And if you're okay with that, then just let us know that, and we'll continue on with that approach for you to take a consideration of.
Yeah,
I would feel comfortable renting to people within the our health department. Anybody outside of our health department is a no-go. Like, I don't know how you could police that. Councillor Ballmer.
Yeah, I'll try to answer the questions that are on the table, because I think it's important that staff have this direction as they come back with this report, so they understand how to compare, you know, a third-party option or educate a third party and compare it to staff operating it, so they know what we're trying to do. And I would concur with your comments. I think maintaining opportunities for the schools for free skate, whether it's the public, whether it's Aberfoyle Public School, or I don't know if Whistle Stop's going to operate, what else is going, but those things are important. Community free skates. I spoke to the city of Guelph on this. I was able to get a call in there. They're still planning to put their ice rink out in front of City Hall for free skates. The plan is to limit the number of people on the ice at any given time and possibly require masks. So these things are all doable, I think. So I think free skates are possibly doable here, but controlled. I mean, it doesn't have to be all day, every day. I think it's important that to get a good revenue stream, I didn't disagree with the idea of offering blocks of rental time in the past for league play, provided that one-offs were, once that time was booked, then one-offs could be booked in and around that. I think it's important to maintain one-offs, whether it's a family wants to come out and have a game of shinny, or it's a birthday party and somebody's, you know, wants to do that and everybody's wearing a mask. Whatever the health unit requires of us, I think we can still accommodate these as outdoor activities. I know the community was very upset when we went to The only thing you could rent is when it was, you had to book 6 or 8 weeks straight and there were no other rental opportunities available. So if you brought your little 4-year-olds out for a birthday party, they had to mix and mingle with the older kids in a free skate. And I think people like the opportunity to have a birthday party. So I want to make sure we have those one-off rentals, as the mayor mentioned. So I would like to see us accommodate as much as we have in the past. But if we can't, you know, I don't think we've ever covered the costs in the past. But you know, the next discussion we're going to have is about curtains, and those might be one of the ways that might help us improve bookings and help to recover some more costs, because it'll be a more dependable life service, and people will be willing to book in advance knowing they can get it. So those be, I hope that's helpful for the direction you're looking for.
Yep, that is, thank you. So what I would suggest, and that's good feedback, thank you for that. So now we know what council's view and what they'd like to see come back. What I would suggest is that we just table this report. No need to go through those questions that are in there, obviously, because we've got your input and the consensus of opinion of council, and then we'll bring you back another report at the next meeting with some of this information for your consideration. But I think staff will then proceed with preparations for getting ice ready for whatever that use will be. We'll just start preparing for that. Obviously, we're not going to do it in this warm weather, but at least organize and start planning for that when that time will come. But we'll get your report for the next meeting.
Any other comments from the councillors?
Just,
Councillor Gordon?
sorry, Mr. Mayor, just, I know, Mr. CAO, you had asked if there's specific groups that we want to or don't want to rent it to, but I'm imagining, you know, if we're trying to restrict it by age, how we would do that if we have, you know, kids who are learning to skate who need their parent with them or something like that. And if we're restricting it to Puss Lynch only, how does that look if my kid has a friend that lives in the city of Guelph that wants to skate with them? And then everyone has a friend, everyone all of a sudden has a best friend that lives in Puss Lynch. Like I just,
Yeah.
I think there's going to be challenges. I don't foresee us having the ability to be restrictive in who we're renting it to. I think if we're going to rent it, we're going to rent it.
Okay.
And we'll have to put the appropriate protocols in place to manage that. But I see more challenges than good from trying to restrict it to specific groups.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So Ms. White-Fox, do you have a resolution just to receive this report and that staff will report back?
I do. That report REC-2020-006 regarding updates to the Optimus Recreation Center rink operations be tabled, and that staff report back at the next meeting.
Thank you. Can I get a mover for that?
I'll move it.
Councillor Bulmer, seconded by Councillor Spoulos. Any further comments?
Just wondering if this is something the rec committee should be involved in helping with. I don't know.
Let's leave it with staff for now. It's pretty complicated, and I don't know. What are your thoughts? Sorry, Councillor Goyda. It's a
Time's up.
I don't know
tricky
that
time.
there's time. I don't think we meet till the
Yeah.
end of November. I think we're already pushing it by waiting 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it should be brought to the meeting, but I don't think it should hold anything up.
Okay. All right. Did I get a mover and seconder for that? I got Councillor Bulmer, and did I get a seconder? Was it Councillor Spoulos? Okay. Any further comments? All in favor? Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Bulmer,
Favor.
Councillor Goyda,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor.
I'm in favor. That's carried. All right, now we'll go backtrack a little bit. We'll do the curtains. Honestly, until we deal with the ice, I don't know if we should be do we want to discuss the curtains, or you want to defer until we hear back from this ice report? Councillor Spoulos?
We can approve it subject to approval of the availability of ice for this year.
I like your thinking. Okay, so Mr. Fowler, you want to give us a little bit of an update on these curtains, please?
Yes, sir. First thing I'll start off by saying these proposed curtains will not filter or keep out COVID. So that's not going to be the sales pitch here.
Will they filter or keep out cigarette smoke?
I can try it out for you.
Okay.
Okay, the background behind this was in the spring of 2020, the Optimist Club approached the township in requesting permission for a consultant to study the ORC power plant and chillers. At the time, the Optimists were feeling that a study should be done to determine if the size of the unit currently employ are sufficient enough. The reason behind this was because of the inconsistent ice that we were provided to leagues and residents. The AOK was given to Mr. Ken Williams to pursue a study and to quote for an upgraded power plant. Late August, we received the quote, and it was identified through one of our vendors that currently looks after our power plant on a maintenance basis. The quote that was received came in at a total of $120,000. This included installing an upgraded compressor and also establishing a new chiller unit for the outside. Within the quote that was provided, it was indicated from the vendor that, and I'll read his quote. It is recommended that the owners continue to explore options to provide temporary protection of the ice surface from sun, snow, wind, rain, etc., and in the forms of retractable curtains or walls. Additional measures will only help ensure ice and lower operating costs of the refrigeration system. So upon receiving this quote, the township took it upon themselves to investigate the possibility of instead of spending this amount that the Optimists were proposing, look at actually investigating the avenue of installing curtains. There was a question that was asked about years back, curtains being proposed at a cost of $100,000. Unfortunately, through my records, I don't have any available information from the previous administration, so I can't answer that question. We got a quote from a vendor. The vendor's called Schaefer Industries. They provide protective screening for industrial plants, welding shops, dairy barns. That's retractable. And the quote that come in from Schaefer Industries was $24,000. This includes a full system that is retractable. You can compare it to something that would be in your front living room window. When you want to engage them, you pull two across, secure them to the ground and to each other. And when you're done, they would retract back, tuck in against the girders, the support girders, and they would be out of sight, out of mind. I'm quite enthusiastic about this proposal. I feel that this is a very good start for the township to try and establish a consistent ice where we can attract more rentals, especially league play. I understand completely the league's reluctance to commit to trying to operate a league out of the ORC just because it takes 2 nights of a fairly warm wind or a light rain, and staff have trouble losing the ice. So just to explain the ice, it's not just as simple as the ice melts and it refreezes. The township spends, that was indicated earlier, around $6,000. Around $3,000 of that includes painting and establishing lines for basically ice hockey. Once the ice melts, basically like a big kaleidoscope of colors. Colors run, lines are now ruined. Yes, it could be frozen and could just be used to skate on, but as far as league play goes, there's no identifiable lines for the goalie crease face off circular. So in conclusion, I guess just to sum up too, the Optimist Club had idea that they were willing to contribute $70,000 toward the cost of the $120,000 quote, with the ask of the township if it would be possible to make up the difference. That difference comes in around $49,500. Optimists have indicated that they are only willing to pursue the actual plant replacement. If we go the route of the curtains, it would be a township initiative. And again, I kind of some theorize it as, you can buy the biggest air conditioner you want. It's really not going to help if you continue to leave the front door open. So I think this is a good start, a good approach. I'm confident in the end result. It's going to basically be the north wall and the south wall that will be covered. Currently, the east wall is covered by the building, and what was identified was we don't get any type of precipitation or any type of wind blowing in directly from the south. So this is the prevalent wind patterns that we it's here in Whistler. Another investigative approach we did was we found a neighboring municipality that is currently using a picnic pavilion as basically a skating rink in the winter. Please keep in mind, there's no power plant, there's no chillers in the floor. It's basically a concrete structure with a roof. They throw curtains up around the entire pavilion. They flood it, and once it freezes, we have testimonial from them that they've been able to keep ice. Basically no hydro, no nothing. These curtains do the job to keep the weather out. Same timeline as we do. Our best case scenario is the middle of April before we lose our ice. The 2019-20 season, we were fairly successful in keeping the ice. We were able to accommodate the Optimists for their Family Day festivities, and we were also able to accommodate March break scale. I think we lost the ice about the first week of April. I'm open to any questions if you would like to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Could you just tell us a little bit more about the curtain construction, please?
The current construction, it's basically a fabric composite. It consists of woven polyester. There is the option to get a plastic coating, which would be PVC coating that would be applied on top of the curtain fabric. This is an option. The vendor has indicated that the fabric alone will do the job. It will basically go from the roof of the structure right down to the concrete sidewalk. The top 3 feet of this curtain will be a tightly woven mesh, which will allow some airflow through. That's just to keep air circulating on the rink. It won't come anywhere near the ice. And the remainder of the curtain consists of an opaque woven material, which will allow some light in, but it will also block any type of, or even diffuse the sun. This fabric is guaranteed to be UV resistant, mildew resistant, and rot resistant. It is fire rated as non-combustible, and the vendor is giving a 5 to 10 year outdoor warranty. Anything inside, of course, is they predict a longer life, but they say, 5 to 10 years safe bet that this material will last for with consistent use. I guess we can classify this system could be utilized 4 seasons actually, spring, summer, fall, and winter. It can be utilized to protect the farmer's market in the farmer's market season. It can also be used as a sun shield for any type of activities that are done on the concrete pad throughout the summer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fowler. Councillor Bailey. Did we lose her? Maybe she's doing the bus. We'll get back to her. She's probably doing the bus. It's 3:25. Councillor Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Fowler. First off, I want to acknowledge and thank the Optimist Club for their continued support of this facility. You know, over the years, they've put hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteer hours into, you know, making the free skates possible, running the Zamboni, or the ice. There's a proper name for it besides Zamboni, but and so I appreciate their interest in getting, you know, an objective report as to what needs to be done to see this building operate to its fullest potential. I guess I'm going to start. I'm going to come at this first from the farmers market perspective, because that's my biggest experience there. Is I'm glad you mentioned it. Certainly in all the years, and I think I was manager there for 3 years and volunteered as executive director for several years, helping set up in the morning, trying to get the vendors set up on windy days and rainy days was certainly a challenge, especially on the north and the west ends. If we had wind and rain, it was not uncommon for the rain to come in 10 feet in, maybe more, and possibly, you know, damaging vendors' products, which often made it difficult for the market to attract vendors, especially if they knew they were going to be placed on that side where they knew the rain and wind could come in. It was nice they'd be tucked right up against the wall to protect them from some of the wind, but the rain would come in. So I think this will certainly extend their season or help them attract vendors through in October. One of the things we learned as a tenant there is that, and I don't know if this is still the same policy, but we were notified, I can't remember, partway through our first term, our first 4-year lease, that if the floor was wet and the staff felt it was slippery, they could close it down. And that was a shock, that somebody who had rented it could be closed partway through, despite having, you know, the safety precautions they took with floor mats and placing sand on the floor. So if this can help improve that safety, the safe use of the facility too, I think that's a benefit. I expect it to be the same thing would apply to other renters for ball hockey in the summertime, who would benefit from having these curtains there. So I think that's a good thing. To get to the ice, I'm glad you mentioned the part about the airflow, because that's one of the things, probably more than the sun shining on the ice, is the movement of cold air off this that collects in and around the boards. Air that blows and replaces that cold air with warmer air. That's part of the problem too. So I think this is a really good step. And if it doesn't work, we still have a lasting benefit for other users. If this doesn't work for the ice, it's still going to work for other renters, other uses that were actually part of the application in the first place. So this isn't money lost if it doesn't get us to May or through all of April with the ice. This is still money well spent in terms of maximizing the usability of that facility for all rentals all year round. So whereas upgrading the compressor certainly improves the ice in the winter time, it won't address the other 3 seasons. So I think it's a good place to start. And if it isn't enough, we can revisit the other one next time. So thank you very much.
Hey, Councillor Goida.
Thank you. I just wanted to start by echoing Councillor Balmer's comments about thanking the Optimist Club, and also thanking Mr. Fowler for putting so much time and effort into finding a way to make this facility even better than it is already. There's a couple items in this report that are leading me to sort of lean one way or the other. The first is in regards to upgrading the power plant and chiller. And the way this report is written, it says, the thought is with the expanding chilling capabilities that the pad could be kept cooler, which would hopefully help extend the life of the ice. And I read this as, well, it may help, but it also may not. So it's a lot of money to be spending to simply hope that it'll extend the life. And I wouldn't be comfortable with that expense without some reassurance that it will for sure extend the life. And then to further build on that, and Mr. Fowler already kind of talked about this, it also says that the inspection determined that the ice failure is primarily due to weather conditions. So to me, that doesn't really translate to needing to make it colder, but to address the weather conditions. So in terms of the curtains, I do like that it's multifunctional and that it can be used year round to provide improvements for multiple uses. And I'm definitely in support of that if it will help improve the rentability of the facility. That being said, again, to sort of come back to my point about the cost and how we're going to pay for all these things, if the $25,000 is going to result in an increased tax levy, I don't know that this is the year to be doing it. I think that our residents and our businesses are under enough pressure right now with COVID-19, but if it can be funded through a reserve without impacting future commitments, then I think it's a worthwhile investment. But I would suggest that perhaps as part of the report back on what the operations of the facility are going to look like this year, that perhaps staff also report on how we're going to fund that as part of perhaps our budget meeting. I'm not sure, but those would be my comments.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Spoulis.
Yes, I support this in principle. I'd like to echo Councillor Bulmer's or Councillor Goyda's comments with respect to the contributions made by the Optimist Club and our staff in trying to find a workable cost solution. I have a couple questions with respect to these curtains. Will there be any peripheral work required, such as more lighting, increased fire protection, or lighting or ventilation?
No, there will not. It will consist of utilizing the present structural beams that hold the roof up, and it will basically be like a trolley and track system that will be attached right to the girders. As far as any additional lighting, all lighting will be contained within the rink, so this won't hamper any type of lighting for whatever venue is going on at the time. And in fact, with it being an opaque surface, some light will still be able to filter through. So the only thing I can regard to as a fire related would be that it is fire resistant. If council proceed with this, obviously, I would be in touch with our fire department in regards to any type of ongoing fire suppression that would come along with these.
Okay, this will obviously reduce the hydro costs as well, so that's a bonus. The timeline, how soon can you order these curtains and have them installed? I'm just looking if we're trying to get them for this season. Can we do it, or is that something that I have to wait till next year?
We currently, in speaking with the vendor just before the meeting today, he indicated that the month of November and the first 3 weeks of December are still available. He does have a couple scheduled jobs end of December into late January. So all depending on council's, that would be then determined on a date for installation. All required materials are currently on site. The curtains would just have to be manufactured.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, when it comes to move a motion, I'd like to move the motion along the lines that we proceed as long as there is a skating season this year.
Okay. Now, can I just discuss your motion with you briefly?
Sure.
Councillor Bulmer discuss
Just
all
excuse me,
the-
Mr. Chair. I'll second that so it can be on the table for discussion.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Bulmer. You know, think of it this way: if we don't have ice, are we willing to provide this benefit to the other rental groups, the other 3 seasons? So I know we're getting a little fixated towards the ice, but this is really benefiting 3 other seasons as well. And I know there's other sports organizations out there that are interested in renting our facility, but the sun is in their eyes at the time of day they're renting. So it's namely lacrosse. And so I see this as a benefit to multiple renters across all 3 seasons. Is there any appetite for you to want to do these curtains to facilitate more of those rentals and those current renters, the farmers market per se?
I would like to see the benefit for the other 3 seasons. Council Bowman mentioned the market. Sure, I agree it's cold, but the market does have a lot of people going in. When it's hot in the summer, you're not going to use those curtains, I don't think. You mentioned lacrosse in the summer. I don't know if those curtains would be beneficial. Would they trap the?
Oh, did I drop? No, I think we lost you, Councillor Spillis.
I think so.
Oh, no. We'll give him a minute to come back.
Yeah. Mhm.
Councillor Sapoulis. Just give him a couple minutes. Are you back, Mr. Sapoulis?
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know if
Oh,
you
good.
heard.
I heard most of you, and I'm not. If you're tabling a motion that is contingent on the ice, then I'm comfortable with that. I'll just make sure we get the ice in.
Well, perhaps if I could, Mr. Chair, I can speak to one of Councillor Spoulis's concerns and perhaps suggest a
Sure.
friendly amendment to his motion. In addition to the rain, Councillor Spoulis, with regards to the market, the wind became a significant safety issue sometimes at the market, where it's very difficult on a concrete floor to fasten down a canopy other than with weights, which can slide. Things that get blown off of tables. There was on more than one occasion where gusts of wind would come through and create a safety hazard in there. And that'd be another piece that the curtains could certainly address. If we knew it was a windy day, we'd have them closed, or they would have had them closed. So it's not just the water or the temperature. The temperature people can deal with. It's the wind and the rain. So, and if I could propose one friendly amendment, I think I would agree. Perhaps the timing would be contingent on whether we put ice on. Could we maybe modify it to the timing of the installation be determined by whether this ice is going in or not? So then they could be deferred till spring if there's no ice.
Council Boomer, I guess I hear what you're saying with respect to the wind. I hear what you're saying with respect to the rain. I don't believe these curtains are solid, so you would get some wind coming through. I don't know how much wind protection you'll get, and likewise how much rain protection you'll get. So those are the questions I would be asking before I jump the gun.
Good points. And if
Okay.
I could, one other question, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
on the timing issue and on whether they go in now or later. One other potential renter that maybe hasn't contacted the township lately, but I know I've been contacted in the past, is local roller derby leagues are often looking for places to practice in the wintertime, and their favorite place is hockey arenas in the summertime, but they all have ice in the wintertime. So a rink that doesn't have ice is very attractive in the wintertime for roller derby practices. So it's another opportunity where if we can look at in the wintertime, if the curtains were there in the fall, that would make this available and possibly available for rent for roller derby rentals.
Okay. The friendly amendment, Councillor Spillis, for the timing, are you accepting of that, or would you rather keep your?
Well, I accept the friendly amendment subject to understanding the implications in the hot weather and in the windy and rain conditions. In other words, are you going to have the curtain there where it's hot? I don't know. Will you get enough ventilation through? Then the curtains are strictly one season.
Yeah, and maybe Mr. Fowler could speak to this, because they're going to have the option. So when I brought up the lacrosse rentals, you know, the sun would be in their eyes on the east side, so then it was posing a bit of a safety concern as they're firing these balls at the goalies. But, and Mr. Feller, this is where the question is going to be posed to you. These curtains are going to be able to be deployed in between the girders individually. So if you're having a sun issue on the, you know, the northeast corner or wherever the sun is coming through, you can just block it off incrementally, right? Correct? Or is it one giant curtain that has to be deployed in its entirety?
No, it'll be 2 sets of curtains per section of girder. So if it's a sun issue, the first 2 sections could be deployed. This would all be done by the facility operator. The renters wouldn't be required to do that. Usually it's about an hour where the sun is on the horizon where it could affect vision. Once the sun drops below the horizon, the curtains can easily be opened up again and to the elements. So it is versatile that the entire north and south wall can be closed in for climate, or it can be pick and choose. If it happens to be a sun issue or a wind from the west, then the western end can be closed. So it's very flexible in my opinion.
And I don't know if you have this information right now, but the makeup of the curtains, are they not impermeable to rain, but water resistant, or does that require that option of the plastic coating?
No, they're impermeable to rain. They will also let a little bit of light through. So it will act as a wind block, a water block, and with the meshing on top, that's where you get your airflow just for circulation. So basically the 14 feet down will be an opaque surface that will block any elements.
So I'm fine with a friendly amendment.
Okay, so just, I'll go to the other counselors. Counselor, did everybody speak to this? Counselor Bailey, have you had an opportunity? To Counselor
No, I didn't.
Spils's
No, but I like the conversation, how it's going. I did have a question about the versatility. If partway through a 1 hour rental, you need the curtain done, you know, are the renters able to say, oh, we need this curtain closed for the next 20 minutes? Is that how this can work?
Yes. I'll use the renter to identify the facility operator at the time, whether it be a full-time or one of our part-time students. They'll engage the curtain until the renter are happy. And if it requires it to be opened up again within a half an hour, the facility attendant will do that.
Okay.
I believe the intention, oh, sorry, go ahead, Counselor Bailey.
No, that's okay.
No, you carry on. Go
Well, I
ahead.
just, the other question, not that we want to spend more money on this, but I just was curious about if we did need south side curtains, is it more beneficial to purchase in bulk now? Or is there any savings in that respect?
I can inquire at that. This was identified through the facility operators that no type of inclement weather comes through from the south side. So they identified the wall and the north wall.
It might be because all the weather lands on the players' benches instead of on the rink. You have that extra little buffer, plus there's cedar trees there.
If I
Okay,
could,
Coun-
then is it my turn?
I was gonna let Counselor Goida go first, and then I'll come back to you, Counselor Bulmer, if that's okay. Counselor Goida.
Yeah, really the only other question that remains unanswered for me, and perhaps our Director of Finance can answer this, is this something that can be funded through cash, like one of our reserves?
Councillor Goida, I just looked at the Planning Act and legislation as it relates to the cash in lieu of parkland restricted reserve. And so this is a project that could be funded through that.
Okay, and I know that we haven't through our budget seen projected balances in our reserves, but is there anything to be concerned about?
The cash in lieu of parkland restricted reserve has a good balance right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Counselor Bulmer.
Thank you. I just, again, I don't want to dig too deep into operations here, but is it possible these things could be deployed year-round preventively as well? We know there's a storm coming, they can be put in place. When I think of the amount of time I saw staff running the little floor vacuum to suck up water that had come in due to a rainstorm prior to a rental. It takes a long time to vacuum the water off that floor. Is this something that they could be engaged? We know, like we do with the brining of the roads, we see something coming, we close the curtains, keep the water out.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. With a little bit of foresight, whether it be a major snowstorm where we have heavy winds and drifting snow, curtains can be deployed. Whether it be a rainstorm or any type of high wind event, they can be deployed. I find it'll be a great benefit to the facility operator. They show up at 7 in the morning and don't have to try and snow blow a 3-foot drift off the ice. So that keeps us on schedule for whatever renter free skate is approaching for the 9 o'clock hour. So this is just another step in preventative maintenance and trying to keep our ice suitable.
Super, thank you so much.
Councillor Spillis, can we add a friendly amendment to your motion that, or resolution, however you want to term it, that the curtains be funded through the cash in lieu of Parkland Reserve?
I agree with that approach.
Okay. So if you can just summarize your or actually, Ms. White Fox, do you want to read out the motion you have captured from Councillor Spillis, please?
Yes, just one moment.